Hey onesies, Josh Williams here, and thanks for checking out the One Man Podcast. There's now over 200 episodes and dozens of bonus interviews, all of which are available at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, and many more. And you know what? If you don't have any of those apps, no big deal, because you can listen anytime at onemanpodcast.com. So be sure to subscribe because it's always free and there's a new episode out every Wednesday. And while you're at it, leave a review. It's a great way to help the podcast and it doesn't cost you a thing. Follow One Man Podcast on all the major socials and you'll get bonus content and pictures, fun stuff for yourself. And finally, if you have something that you want read on the show, send it to contact@onemanpodcast.com, because if you send it, I'll read it on an upcoming episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy.
What's up, everybody? This is DJ Damaris.
I'm K. Trevor Wilson.
Hey, it's Krista Allen.
Hi, this is Rick Mercier.
What's up, guys? This is Paul Verzi, and you are listening to the One Man Podcast. Yeah!
My name is Josh Williams, and welcome to the One Man Podcast, episode number 350 for Wednesday, January 17th, 2024. How's it going, onesies? Are you having the best day ever? Are you having the best week ever? Best existence, huh? Question mark. Are you? I hope you are. What is the One Man Podcast? You might be asking. If you've stumbled upon it for the first time, this is your first iteration of it. It is me, comedian, brand ambassador, Earthling, Josh Williams, telling you what's going on with me personally, professionally, and everything in between. And this week, I'm going to tell you guys about my headlining week at Absolute Comedy Toronto, some things I've been doing with my ketosis and calorie deficit. I recorded a bonus episode that'll be coming out for you guys on Friday with a great comedic friend of mine, and just all sorts of other little things that have been happening to me in the last little while. I'll tell you guys about, I watched a couple movies that are not new, but I'll let you know what I thought of them. So where do we start? I want to give a big shout out to Mallory, Sean, James, Denaya, Lisa, Emily, Thomas, Jackie, Will, and anyone I may have missed from the Absolute Comedy Toronto staff. I love those guys very much. They're always very welcoming. They take good care of me. Very, very happy to have spent time with them and doing the week of shows. Big shout outs to all the audience members who came out to shows and had a great time, took the time to say, hey, great job, loved you. All the people who bought merch after the show, thank you so much for your support and kindness. I truly, deeply appreciate that. I had a really good time. I want to say thank you to Kat and Ryan for coming to see me. They're busy. They're doing a million things. They got a lot going on right now. So it's tough to come all the way from Oakland into Toronto to do stuff. They're pretty exhausted, but they did anyways. And I'm so grateful that I got to spend some time with them. They had a great time. I want to thank them for bringing their friend, whom I'm apologies. After a big long week of taking in names, I can't remember their friend's name, but it was very nice to meet them. And I'm glad that they had a good time as well. I want to say thank you to Jenny and Monica from Founders Original and the crew that they brought out. They came out to see the show on Sunday, which was not my favorite show of the week, if I'm being completely honest. And sorry, gang, something happened. I'll tell you about it this episode. I'm not really looking forward to talking about it, but I just found out right before I started recording the podcast. So it's sitting new with me and I'm trying to plow through. So yeah, I want to say thank you to Jenny and Monica. I was giving out Founders Originals drinks courtesy of them. So I was mentioning the last episode, I dropped off a ton of stuff, and after every show, so sometimes 150 people, we did 2 shows on Saturday. I was giving away free cans of Founders Original for them to try home. A little guerrilla marketing thing. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for the support from Founders. Just a nice little, sampling, like not to sample there, but a sample to take home. I'm going to have a little sip here. My Esca Citron, which is French for lemon water. Mm-hmm. I'm noticing with this ketosis stuff and the low caloric intake and everything like that, I'm actually not drinking as much water either. So I had a bit of a conversation right before this. My mouth was getting super dry. I was a little bit nervous to talk about it, but I was also just not really taking a lot of water. I was sipping a coffee earlier, but coffee is not water. So I also wanted to say, the Founders thing went great. It was a lot of fun. They seemed very, very happy. The staff at the club loved it. And I'm looking forward to more events with them in the Ottawa area in the coming months. I also want to say thank you to Jen and Dennis who came out. Jen is one of the marketing people, staffers, producers that I've worked with before on many different gigs through many different brands. And her husband came out. It was a lot of fun to see them. I was very, very happy for them. They're going to be doing some traveling in the spring. So great with them. And they stuck around. We hung out. We shot the shit afterwards. And then a great big thank you to my friend Lydia, who is in the fashion world in the Toronto area. Lydia and I sat and chatted till late in the morning one night after the shows. We were just shooting the shit to the point where the bar was like, all right, guys, like we're closing down. You don't have to go home, but you got to get out of here kind of thing. So I chatted with my pal Lydia. It was great. So just want to say thank you to all of my friends who came out to the show. Thank you to all the staff that's there and the audiences. I've got a few little fun anecdotes from the shows that I'll remind you of. Like, it was so funny. We had these two older ladies with blonde hair with this like sassy attitude. And I say older, but I mean, they were old, maybe not 80, but in their 60s per se. Hair done up all whatever, and all whatever. Yeah, very descriptive, Josh. Their hair was all done up, and it was very funny to me. They had just the sassiness to them. So I was like, oh, we got fucking Grace and Frankie in the audience tonight, and they got a kick out of it. The audience got a kick out of it. I had a few different couples where it was a funny couple I was chatting to who were both like electrical engineers, and they're like, we build stuff. One guy was like, I'm a software engineer. And so when I was chatting with the couple, I'm like, okay, you're a software engineer. And he's like, I go, where'd you guys meet? They're like a dating app. And I go, oh, really? Is this one that you designed? Is this the dating app that you designed? And they're like, oh, cool. And then you two of you like basically figured out how it worked together and everything. I don't know. It was a cute couple. I got some good lives. I did so much different crowd work, and I had so many different groups of people. There was like a group of people that were like, the way they were dressed and the eclectic group. I'm like, oh, wow, you guys look like you're all part of how do you guys know each other? They're like, oh, we're musicians. I go, yeah, but you guys look like you're more of like an orchestra, musician group. And they're like, oh, we are. Da, da, da. There's so many times where I would guess what somebody is. And they're like, yeah, how did you know? I'm like, profiling. It works. It's not 100% correct, but it's, it works. Where do stereotypes come from, huh? Like there's an element of truth to them. Slurpy, slurpy. I didn't mention that I am back home in Ottawa now. I am recording from my desk studio with my original mic setup. It's a lot less to get ready in terms of being able to record this podcast. So it's nice to be back here, not holding a microphone, having my hands free while I chat. This was something that was really uncomfortable that happened on stage. So I was having an interaction with a man at a table, and while I was talking to him, his phone rang. And I was like, who the fuck is that? And he's like, oh, it's my daughter. I go, give me the phone. I'm going to chat with her. And he's like, yeah, of course. I was going to do that anyway. So I was like, I don't know if he was serious or not, but I'm like, give me the phone. So he gives me the phone. I answer. It says Katie on. He goes, my daughter. I answer. I go, hey, Katie, how's it going? Right into the microphone, right? So they can hear her too. Who is this? I go, who the fuck is this? You're calling your dad in the middle of a show. It's his night out. It's an older gentleman, right? So I know his daughter's probably got some age on her. And she's like, oh my God, this is an emergency. I need to talk to her now. I go, okay, well, Katie, be careful, because right now you're talking into a microphone where 200 people can hear you. So just give me 1 second. No, I really need to talk to him right now. I go, I understand that. Just don't say the nature of it. I'm going to ask you. So pass over to him. And I go, well, that sucks. So he takes the phone. He walks out of the show. And I'm like, well, they don't always go the way you plan, folks. Anybody wish they were me right now? I go, that's fucking awkward. I go, I hope she's okay. I look down at the woman who was next to the man. I go, did you want to go out too in case it's, and she's like, yeah. So the two of them leave, the man and the woman. I assumed the mother because she was with them. So I do a little bit more crowd work. I definitely recover. And then he comes back like honestly a minute and a half later, longest minute and a half of my life. Cause I'm like, I go, it sucks that I hate breaking character on stage, but I'm empathetic. If it's a serious thing, I don't want someone to be hurt or whatever. And I was also, the reason I was trying to tell her, like, don't say anything is because like, I would hate for her to be like, oh my God, I just miscarried or whatever, something that you don't want to share with a room full of strangers. So I was trying to protect her and say, don't say anything. I'm going to pass you the phone. I need to talk to him. I'm like, yes, I'm looking out for you. And then I go, you know what, guys, sometimes we're just trying to have a little funny. And then sometimes, whatever. So he comes back in the room. I'm like, oh, you're back. So she's okay. He goes, oh yeah, she's just skating and she twisted her ankle. Her mom's going to take her to he goes, if you don't think that, sorry guys, my fucking phone keeps going off and it's popping up on the phone in front of me and on the computer screen in front of me. I just say, oh yeah, she's fine. She just twisted her ankle. I go, oh, fuck off. That's not an emergency. And then he goes, no, it's fine. Her mother's a pediatrician and she's going to drive her to the hospital. And I go, so the mother's with her? And she's like, yeah. I go, so you're not the mother? And she's like, no. And I'm like, oh, so you don't even have to that's the step kid that you don't really have, you have to pretend to love for his benefit. And she laughs, and 3 people at her table laughed fucking hard. Like everyone else was kind of like still a little, what's going, is everybody, but the people at the table, like laughing so hard. I'm like, holy fuck, does she not love her? Did I just out something? So anyways, Yeah. Sorry, guys. I've got that other thing still bouncing around in my head too. So that was a thing. And we recovered fine, got lots of laughs from the table. They were like, everything's fine. The audience came back on, but holy fuck, for a good minute and a half, I was worried that I had like decimated some woman who was having an actual emergency. And I'm sorry, twisting your ankle while skating. And she was already getting taken care of. She just had to call her dad and tell him, right, on his night out, like people don't always get a nice night out away from the kids. I think I was even going into a bit about having kids. And it was just like, yeah, so you guys, there you go, guys. There's another reason that like having kids, like, you don't get to enjoy yourself. They just got to bother you with everything. So yeah, that was the most uncomfortable thing of the entire week. But a lot of the other crowd work stuff was going great. I was having a great time. We were enjoying ourselves. It was a fun little evening until that phone call. And it was a great week in Toronto. I'm very, very happy about that. I was a little worried when writing this because like not writing it, but writing the notes for it, because I'm like, I've got a lot of the extra stuff, right? I got a word of the week. I got a quote of the week. I got a top 5 for you guys, some plugs at the end, but I didn't feel like I did a whole hell of a lot outside of the comedy. I worked really hard on the podcast. Like I recorded another bonus episode that ended up taking like 4 hours to record. And I woke up late in the day. I took a trazodone, which is like a sleeping pill, because what was happening was I'd be at the club. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last episode, but I would drink coffee because I'm allowed to drink coffee on the keto diet. So I would drink coffee to just balance the boredom from water. But then I'd get home and I'd be awake till 3 a.m. You know what I mean? So the caffeine wasn't doing me any favors. So I took a trazodone to make sure I could sleep because I had a lot planned for the next day, including my interview. And I ended up like waking up at 1 o'clock when Kyle messaged me, and he's like, yeah, I'm just coming home from my appointment now. I'm on my way. I'll shout. I was like, yeah, no worries. Here's still and I look at the time. I'm like, holy shit, it's 1:15. Like I got 45 minutes before he gets here. So I had to wake up, check my health metrics, and oh my God, this thing in my head, even Brooklyn was like, you shouldn't be recording a podcast right now. Like after the state that you're in, I'm like, you know what? That's part of the reality of who I am. Right. So I need this episode available on time. I'm trying to get everything out on time to you guys. That's the whole reason I did a desk setup and everything. And so, yeah, I looked at the clock. I'm like, I don't have time to do my stuff. So I did my metrics, and then I sort of set up the equipment in a haste, and then we got started. And then by the time we finished, I sort of had to jump in the shower and get ready for the show that night. So like I lost a whole day, but it was a good episode. I spent days outside of that. I'm saying a lot. Days outside of that, uploading episodes, making episode promos for the stuff that I had posted on time, just trying to be on top of it, making notes for the episodes that I missed in December. And then of course, I even recorded 2 of those episodes last week while in Toronto. So even though I don't break it like it was recorded, late, I just went through them. And I got a lot of notes together. I worked on top 5 lists. I did a lot of work for the podcast so that it would be ready. The only week that I didn't do the notes for was that current week. I was working on so much previous stuff. So I should have made more notes. All of them came off the top of my head today with stuff that I've been doing. So working on the podcast, putting a lot of hours into that. I also worked on I spoke with one of the comics that was on a show, and he was telling me about a theater in Collingwood, Ontario that usually, they don't have a lot of seats, but they do a lot of work to bring people in. So like it's just a small town. Sorry guys, I'm still getting sidetracked with this thing. I apologize. Basically, this theater has 100 seats. They put it online, and because this town has not a lot to do, a lot of the times it'll sell out just because it's something to do. So I was like, well, hell, that would be fun to do a show there if it's not going to take a shitload of promotion. And the big thing is it's not expensive to rent. So it's not like you're going to take a huge bath on what's, the price of things. It's not like you're going to spend, $2,000 and hope that you make your money back. It's like a couple $100. So I did a lot of the prelim for that, finding out the details with that comic. And then of course, calling other comics who might be interested in doing a show there. So I'm excited to hopefully continue the work. I've called them a couple times to try to book it, yet they have not responded. Well, actually, not that they haven't responded. There was no voicemail box. And so I need to keep trying again when they're trying during business hours to see if they'll answer. I did call within business hours in case you're like, well, why don't you call during? I did, just wasn't to be. Let's see what else here, guys. This one I always say, might be a short one, but I feel like this one will be a short one because I want to get it out to you on time. However, I'm really fucked up. I think it's best that I tell you about it now, just so that if I keep getting sidetracked, you might have a little more empathy, as opposed to just being frustrated that I'm not with you. So I got a text message from Crystal at like 7 p.m. on Sunday night. Traditionally, I will do the last show of the week, say my goodbyes. I will have the car already packed, park on the front of the street, right? Run whatever merch boxes that I have from the club out and hit the road. Just because I would rather, drive all night, get home at 2 a.m. and then sleep in a bit and then have all of Monday versus the whole wake up Monday morning, probably tired because we're hanging out or whatever. Then you got to pack everything. You might even stay for breakfast first and then hit the road. And it's like, now you're leaving at 12, 1 o'clock. You're not getting home till 5 or 6 and the whole day is gone. So that was traditionally what I did. And Crystal had no reason to believe that I felt any different about it. So she messaged me at 7 o'clock. So this is like, right as the show's getting ready to start. And she goes, just a heads up, the driveway's full of snow, and I'm like, okay. Like I knew that it was snowing. It had snowed in Toronto, and I assumed Ottawa had been hit with snow. I actually was under the impression that there would be snow in the driveway on my side of the driveway because, to be honest with you, I haven't really mentioned it because I don't think I've recorded those episodes, but there's a lot of lack of consideration for me in this house. I know that you guys know that we are not together, and I know that you know that we're still living together. So I knew there'd be no consideration for me. You know what I mean? Just that's the way it was when we were a unit. Now that we're not a unit, there's not gonna be any more. So she said that her and Brooklyn had shoveled out some, but they got tired and stopped. So I go, my guess is that your side is shoveled and mine is not. And she's like, well, yeah, like we try. So I'm like, okay. I go, no problem. Thanks. So as far as she's concerned, she's telling me at 7 p.m. on a Sunday that I'm going to be home at 2 a.m. to a driveway full of snow where I can't park. And to be honest with you, like Brooklyn's position was, well, I shoveled the one side out so you can park in front of the garage. But I'm like, but that just means when I get home at 3 a.m., I'm going to have to wake up at 6 a.m. to let her out for work. So, and once I wake up and put my clothes on and go out in the cold and like I'm awake, I can't just turn around and go back to sleep. So I opted to drive home Monday. I was actually kind of considering that beforehand because I assumed I would have to clean out the driveway. When I got home, my fears were confirmed. They did not, sorry, it's still in my head. They didn't do any of my side. In fact, the snow from in front of the garage had been thrown into my spot instead of, into the lawn on the side. So it was just a lot of like, go fuck myself. So on my way home, I drove home with Dylan Parker, comic who had middled all week. Good guy, very nice guy. We had lots of great chats on the way home. It was great. We stopped in Shannonville, my usual spot, to pick up some products. And then I stopped at Costco on the way home because I got my yearly check from my spend on my MasterCard. And I got my check. I decided to stop into Costco and I'm like, let me just see if we have a shovel. Cause I knew that there was one shovel in the garage, but I'm like, it could have broken by now. And at the same time, I knew that my side was going to have ice banks in front of it from plows chipping everything away with ice. So I'm like, well, I went to Costco. They had everything I needed. They had plow shovel, regular shovel, ice picks. And then they had these little foldable shovels that you can put in your car in case you get stuck in snow or something. I'm like, I've needed one for a while. I picked that up too. And I needed a snow brush scraper. So just a heads up for context for the dynamic, in case I haven't mentioned it, is we have a garage. When Crystal and I were together, I offered her the garage because I'm a nice guy. I'm like, you wake up early in the morning, and I often have gigs where, I start at like 10, so I'll have more time to get up, brush the car off, do what I need to do to get it free. Whereas you got to wake up like crack of dawn. You need as much sleep as you can get. So I just want you to be able to like open the garage and drive off to work without having to deal with that. That was something I was doing because I loved her and cared about her. Crystal has a very different view of things. Crystal is like, not my problem, not my obligation, not, that's not my responsibility. And she's also very, God, I hate running anyone down, but she's also very petty at times too. And when you do something for her, she won't say thank you. She'll say, well, I never asked you to do that. You didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? So it's just a way that she can get what she wants and then not have to be like, like not have to recognize that you did something for her, which is really shitty and devaluing. So it's really bothering me. So I get home, huge job in front of me. I'm starting to chip and hack the ice stuff away. And I was frustrated because all her message did was it didn't give me a heads up. Like, it's 7 p.m. I can't go to a store and buy the tools I need to do this. So as far as she's coming home, I'm going to get home at 2:00 in the morning and have to shovel my way into my spot for God knows how many hours. And this is snowfall after snowfall, right? So it's frozen. It's gotten harder. The plows have come by. It's snowed on top. It's frozen. It's gotten harder. So it's not even as hard as the job if you did it the day of. This is multiple snowfalls. Pause for Citron bubble water. So I'm like, I was really upset. I was really upset because I'm like, this is another lack of consideration for me. I go, look, if I lived here and I was home every day and I just walked around it every day and didn't do anything, then yeah, that's me choosing not to do it. But I'm not in the city. I'm not here to defend myself. I'm like, and if the snow's falling time and again, like I go, I didn't even care if you guys did all of it, but I would have loved to have seen some snow shoveled out of my side to show that like you had thought of me, you knew it'd be a bigger job, and you tried to make it easier for me when I got back. Instead, it's like, oh, hey, heads up, you got a bunch of snow in your thing. I'm like, thanks. All that does, you tell me right before I start my show. So all it does is get in my head that I have this horrible job. It fucks with me during the show. It fucks with me after the show. It fucks with me the whole drive home. You know what I mean? It's not a courtesy. You're just telling me bad news when I can't do anything about it. That isn't a fucking courtesy in the slightest. And please contact at onemanpodcast.com if you disagree. Not to say that I'll fight you or argue with you. It's just, I would love a perspective where telling somebody something shitty when there's nothing that you can do about it is a good thing. So I get home, the snow is there, and I come inside, I grab some gloves, I grab a toque, and I get to work shoveling it. Even the front door, guys, had piles of snow in front of it. So because Crystal and Brooke park in the garage, right? So they get to walk right into the house that way. Whereas I, or any delivery person or any other human being besides themselves will have to go to the front door and crawl through snowbanks to get there. I asked her, I assume your side. Go, yeah, we did. There's still a little bit on our side left too, but we did as much as we could and we were tired. We had to stop. So I go, is there a path to the front door? Because I'm getting home with like luggage and boxes. I have to carry shit into the house. And I can't go through the garage because where the car is, it's blocked by a bunch of like Brooke's bike and stuff. So I can't like shimmy through with shit in my hands. I'd have to lift it up over my head, and a lot of it was too heavy. So I have to go through the front door with my stuff. And they're like, well, there's a little path for you. I get there. The path is a couple footsteps, like from previous snowfalls. You can tell have been snowed over to the front door and all this snow. So I start by shoveling the front entranceway. This is like no courtesy to anybody that's coming to the door. So I shovel the front first, I shovel it down, then I salt it, and then I go back to the snowbank and I start hacking away at this giant ice fucking snowbank. It's probably only 2.5 feet tall, but that's a lot of snow. I chip and I hack away at that. Crystal gets home and is like, oh, let me help you. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's a lot of snow, eh? Like she's trying to play it off like it's all upbeat and everything. Oh, it's so much. And I go, I go, it seems like it snowed a few times. She's like, no, it's only snowed the one time. And I'm like, okay, but there's an ice mound between where my car parks and where her car parks, which means that it's been shoveled and then it's, melted and thawed on my side and then hardened again with the freezing and then snowed over top and melted and thawed and shoved to the side. So I'm like, this driveway's been shoveled multiple times on your side, but not on my side. So it's not like it happened once and you guys have been doing it. This has happened multiple times and you've just left my side. So mine's going to be a tougher job because no one's doing it. And I said, it just felt shitty. And she's like, no, I don't get your point. I go, well, it would have been really nice if you guys had tried to shovel a bit of mine too, just to know that I was considered. You know what I mean? I don't understand. It's not my responsibility. I go, so if you left for 2 weeks and when you came home, my side of the driveway was shoveled out and you had a giant ice snowbank preventing you from driving into the garage, no part of you would go, wow, that's really shitty. She's like, nope, I wouldn't feel bad at all. That's not your responsibility. Like it was such bullshit, guys. There's no human being is going to see one thing done and the other person not. And the thing was, I was like, if you had told me like 4 days ago, I could have called a plow service to take care of it. Like I can still take responsibility for it, but give me a chance to do it when there's a chance to do it. You know what I mean? Don't tell me when there's nothing I can do about it. I'm on my way home. You know what I mean? Like it was a shitty thing to do. So I spent 3 hours outside, guys, yesterday. I kept looking at my watch to make sure that my heart rate wasn't going through like the roof. My chest wasn't that bad. Luckily, I've been taking better care of myself for 2 weeks, right? So I was in a better way, but I literally had eaten nothing yesterday. Literally, not misused. Literally eaten nothing. I woke up in the morning. I took my pills with some water. I got a coffee for the drive home, and that is all I had in my system. Maybe I sipped on a bubbly in the car, but no calories. So I'm low energy already. I'm already 2 weeks low energy because of the thing. I've already got blood pressure issues. I'm out there shoveling for 3 hours. When I first started, Crystal came out. She's like, oh, she helped a tiny bit, but she wasn't being very productive. I'm not going to nitpick. It's someone who's trying to help, but it was a bit of a too little, too late. And then after 10 minutes, she's like, my arms hurt. I need a break. And I go, that's fine. You can take a break. I go, you don't even have to come back. You don't have to. And she didn't. She went inside. She never came back. So I stayed out there this was like maybe 15 minutes in. She started giving me 10 minutes help. And it really, really wasn't a lot. But again, I'm not trying to be petty. It's just, you never would have known I got any help based on what was there when she did it. She never came back to check on me. It did get dark while I was doing it. Nobody even thought to come and turn on the front door. Brooke had a friend show up who walked through the path that I created. Now there was a path to the front door and salted because I'd done it. And they turn on the light inside for the friend, right? And then turn it back off. But no one thought to turn on the outside light for me. Like I kept meaning to do it, but like, when you're in a rhythm, you're like, I could still sort of see what I was doing, but I'm like, at some point I'm going to come turn the light on so I can, see better. Nobody thought to turn the light on for me. Nobody thought to check on me. Like 10 minutes before Brooklyn's friend showed up, which was like 2 hours into me shoveling, Brooke comes up like, yo, did you want a hand for a few minutes? I'm like, that would have been great a long time ago. Like Brooklyn, when I was first shoveling, it wasn't until Crystal came home that Brooke came. I was like, oh, hey, Josh. Comes out to give me a hug. I'm like, honestly, Brooke, I'm not really interested in a hug right now. I'm really frustrated. I'm like, I was gone for 2 weeks and not one person thought to look out for me and have my back. I was really upset. And I'm like, now I can't even bring my shit in because I have to shovel for 3 hours. And I finished finally. I came inside. I was so tired, guys. I brought in the stuff, and it was as soon as I came inside, Crystal and Brooklyn, they're all like, oh, we're leaving. We're going to grab some dinner. I'm like, the whole reason she went inside and didn't come back was that she was making dinner, but now she's done nothing, but she's going to go out and have dinner. So anyways, my thought process keeps getting, hey, who knows? Maybe even Auphonics Gap Closer won't even have these like long pauses where I'm just stuck in my head. So this morning I woke up, I said, Brooklyn, I'd like to clear the air. I go, I'm just really upset that you kind of let that happen and you didn't help me out. I do understand that you're recovering from surgery from 3 months ago, but you shoveled your mom's side and you are home all day. If you need breaks, whatever. But I'm like, the fact that you didn't even try to cover my side at all is really upsetting to me. And I think it's really, we chatted. Brooke was very receptive to what I was saying, but Brooke was really receptive to what I was saying, but was really shitty. I think, sorry guys, I'm really stuck in my head and that's why I tried to get to this. Brooke was like, I thought that by shoveling a spot in front of the garage, you had a spot and mom had a spot inside. And I explained that I don't want to get up first thing in the morning. It'll ruin my sleep. And he's like, that's fine, but that's not where I was coming from. I was just coming from like, I don't want to shovel the whole goddamn driveway. I made sure that you had a spot. And I'm like, okay, well, and I appreciate your position. I'm just letting you know, like, from my point of view, I'm just, my spot has been left and everyone else's was maintained. And so we had a good talk. We chatted about some other things. It was a good time today spent talking with Brooklyn. I didn't unpack or anything like that because we were having a heart to heart. And I appreciated how receptive he was to me saying how it made me feel. Crystal didn't say much to me last night. She was very dismissive. She was kind of dismissive when she came home today. And so I knocked on her door and said, I'd like to speak to you for a minute, please, if I may. I want to talk about how it made me feel. Night and day difference from the conversation. I just said, like, I do a lot around here for you guys so that your lives will be easier. I go, I was gone for 2 weeks and the snow fell several times. You guys shoveled your side. You didn't shovel mine. You told me when there was nothing I could do about it. So all it did was ruin my evening because now I've got this horrible thing looming over me that I have to, there's nothing I can do to change it. You're not giving me enough time to like call and make other arrangements. Oh, I thought you knew it was snowing because you were, I was in Toronto. I wasn't checking autos. Oh, well, yeah, but there was a footage of you walking in the snow. And I'm like, that was 2 inches of snow. It was just fat, annoying snow. And it was gone the next day because it would rain. You know what I mean? She's like, well, I thought you knew. And I'm like, it was a lot of excuses, making excuses. And she's saying like, we did it several times. You know, I was going to do it. She's like, I was going to do it for you, but I was so conflicted. I was like, I don't understand. Why were you conflicted? Well, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I'm like, well, could you? And then she started screaming as she does. Like I just kept saying, I'm having a hard time understanding why I would have been upset if you had done something. Well, I did. It was a lot of work. I couldn't do it. And I kept feeling bad about it. And so she was yelling at me and then basically saying that like I'm browbeating her with it. I said, I just want to come up with something that we can do going forward. And she was screaming and yelling, well, yeah, you're just beating me to death with it. I'm like, no, you're telling me that you were upset. You were afraid to do something about it. And I'm asking you, why were you afraid? I go, I understand that you were afraid that I would be upset when I came home because you know that this situation is a little discourteous. I don't think you were wrong in assuming that I would be upset to come home and see this giant job in front of me. But how is the flip side of the coin? And for the record, I'm explaining to you guys what I'm trying to ask. But she doesn't let me ask it. I'm starting to speak and she cuts me off. She starts screaming, yelling, storms off to her room, slams the door. And it's like, so I'm the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like this was like and I asked her, I'd like to she screams and yells, starts screaming some more, saying that she's sick of this shit, that when she talks to me, I'm always manipulating her it's very dismissive and whatnot. And it's very indicative of the arguments that we have had in our relationship. And again, before I get too comfortable running someone down on my podcast, which is something I've avoided, she mentioned that she didn't do anything this weekend because she was gone for the weekend. And my gut told me that she's already in a relationship with someone else. And right before this podcast was when we had this argument, and it was confirmed. So I'm not surprised. It's been the trend of our relationship together. She goes off with someone else almost immediately afterwards. And I'm just the bad guy. I'm the worst. She moves on very quickly. And this can't be just like a one night stand. This is went over to his house for the weekend. And I assume that she stormed off right now, got in the car and drove off. And I assume that is where she's gone. So I do apologize that it's a little in my head when you spend time with somebody for so long, you care about them. It's hurtful when they move on quickly. And it's funny too, because I was telling you guys that like I was on Tinder and stuff to just sort of feel something, but I never, even when someone would match with me, I was, just absent. It's not something in me. I discussed in the last episode, I'm not a one night stand guy. It's not the same case with her. I would be very surprised if she spent a weekend there and, they hadn't. So that door is closed forever. I'm sad. This clearly wasn't something where the relationship ended and there was self-reflection and internalizing. This is just move right on to the next. And when I was chatting with Brooklyn today, Brooklyn had shared some things with me that I apologize I won't share on the podcast because it's privileged information. But it was like they were sitting and talking about relationships, and Brooklyn was like, everything she said was super narcissistic. There was no accountability on her part. Like everything wrong with the relationship is your fault. And even Brooke was like, I felt like I told her like it's kind of shitty thing to say. But Brooke heard this argument tonight, heard the screaming, and I wasn't screaming back. Brooke's like, I didn't hear you. I heard her screaming constantly. I don't even know where you could have spoke, but she screamed, she stormed off, got in her car and took off. Now here's another thing. Today, while I was getting ready, I was like, I'm going to clear out her side of the driveway. She asked me, hey, like it's a little tough to get past your car in the driveway with the amount of shoveling we did on our side. So like, I'm going to go out and shovel somewhere. I was like, don't worry about it. Crystal does have cerebral palsy and it's not an easy task for her, which is why I wasn't like, why didn't you shovel it? But I was like, why didn't you tell me when I could have done something? Why didn't you tell me when I could, do things like that? Why didn't you make it easier for me by asking Brooklyn to do it? You know what I mean? Like Brooklyn even showed me a text message tonight after the fight that said like, hey, could you shovel out our side of the driveway? Josh is going to do his side when he gets home, or something like Josh said he's going to do. I never had that conversation. That was that blatant lie. She wanted her side done and didn't want my side done. So when she said she was conflicted, it's kind of BS. She also said that she had shoveled several times. Brooklyn's like, I did all the shoveling. She never shoveled. She's like, the first time I saw her shovel was when you got home and she grabbed the shovel and tried to help. So it's just a shitty feeling, guys, And I've had friends like, guys, I get a lot of new listeners from the comedy shows. So this might be the first episode they ever hear. They're like, this fucking guy's problems, Jesus Christ. Like, I'm not trying to paint myself in a negative brush here, nor am I really trying to put her in a negative brush, but the space that she had. So I'm like, don't worry about it. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll take the exercise. I'm doing well. I'm happy with my weight loss and everything. I'm like, I'm going to do the exercise. Even now I'm just like, look at the window. She took off. So it's like, I know where she's gone. I know where she's gone, and I have no idea when she's coming back. My feelings and my part of the discussion will never get the time of day because she'll ensure that it doesn't. But all my friends are like, dude, you got to get out of there. You got to get out of there. I'm like, look, guys, if it was easy to do, I would do it. I have a lot of debt from this relationship. I have a lot of debt from this move. We moved in May for context. And when we moved here, I doubled my cost of living and I bought a bunch of furniture and necessities for this house. So I was like, I'm going to take some time. I need some time to recover financially from this. And I have not had that time because we've had issue after issue after issue. And now she's like, you should just go. And I pay just under $1,000 a month for my portion. We have 3 contributors to this house. I do not have what a place costs in Ottawa. My place that I had before was gone the day after I moved. And now she's like, you can just move out and find a place. No consideration. I'm like, I helped the situation that you were in when we got this place, which is that you were forced out because your landlords were selling. I go, and we pooled our money together and got this place. But now that you're like, oh, I think I can handle it on my own. You're like, just get out. I don't want to live with her, but I'm willing to cohabitate so that we can both get our feet under ourselves financially again. So now I'm with someone who is, deceitful and has been said, like, don't tell anybody I'm seeing someone. Like, it's just, she operates from such a deceitful position that it's really hard and frustrating to be okay with it. And I know we need to be apart, which is what it is. But sadly, and from the bottom of my heart, truthfully, I'm not in a position to double my cost of living again in a year's time, which is quadrupling what I spent before. That's the market that I'm in right now. So despite the fact that I try not to say, shitty things about people and stuff on the podcast, I'm saying that I'm in a situation I'm not happy about right now. We've agreed to finish our 1-year lease together. And then honestly, at the end of that lease, I don't know if it's the expectation is that I'm leaving or that she's leaving. I really don't know what's going to happen. And that's a shitty thing to have weighing on you all the time. But I told her, don't bother shoveling the rest of your side. But I was here and I saw a plow outside. And so I ran out in like my boots and like my t-shirt because they don't take very long in the neighbor's spots. I ran outside and flagged them down. I was like, hey man, a car that's the exact same make as hers just turned around in our driveway. Yeah, I flagged down the plow guy and I was like, hey man, how much to just plow out this side of the driveway? And he overcharged. And I was like, well, how about I give you some booze and like $20? And he's like, all right. So I had it done. I had her side done for her. So when I came in, I just said, hey, your side of the thing's done. And she's like, oh, you didn't have to do that. You like, it wasn't your responsibility. You know what I mean? Like, even though I said, don't do it, I'm going to do it. She accepted that. When I told her, don't worry, you don't have to come back when I was shoveling yesterday, she didn't. But when I told her it's done, she's like, oh, you didn't have to do that. I didn't ask you to do that. You know what I mean? Like, there's always a dismissive, like, I was just like, in my head, I'm like, just say thank you. You know what I mean? Like, it's not an obligation. It's nothing. Just say fucking thank you. Like, I paid out of pocket to help you out. Just say thank you. And, and then I knocked on her door like 15 minutes and I'm like, I'd like to clear the air. That's when we had the discussion. The discussion was all, oh, I knew I should have, I knew I should have, and I really struggled with it and I decided not to. And I still don't know if I picked the right choice. It's like, I didn't pick the right choice. I was like, what was the other choice you do? But she never expresses it. It's always, I'm being manipulative. She doesn't want to, she was avoiding it because she didn't want to have this conversation. I'm like, what, the conversation where I'm like, hey, she didn't say, look, I understand why you feel shitty. You came home to a garbage job that probably someone could have done to help you out. Like I said to you guys before, I'm like, if I hadn't done it, if I had left your side just blocked, you're going to come back and be like, nope, that's cool. I get it. And that's what she said. Oh no, I'd be like, nope, it's not your responsibility. Bullshit. You're going to come back and see that someone put effort into clearing their own spot away and not yours when you weren't in a position to help yourself. Like, It's shitty. But it's anyway, so I just said that. She screamed and yelled and took off. And I know that she's on her way to her boyfriend's house. That's where she's going to go find solace in a new guy who is going to be perfect in her eyes. And it's funny too, because she called me, or she messaged me a few times while I was gone, asking if she'd have the key to my bedroom to come in and use my things. And I said, yes. So basically she's had access to my stuff for over a week. I even told her I wasn't super comfortable with it, but I'm like, if you need to have, so if I'm telling you guys this instinctually, I tell people all the time, your head is your logic, your heart is your emotions, right? And your head and your heart always argue with each other in certain situations. But I'm like, but your gut is your instincts. And I go, very rarely when your gut tells you something, is it wrong? Your head and your heart can conflict you and sometimes betray you at times, but your gut, your instinct is usually right. And she's going, can I borrow your vacuum cleaner? You know, I just want to clean up the house. It's bothering me. And I'm like, she's cleaning up the house to have a guy over. That's my guess. And she's like, I go, listen, I'm really not comfortable with you kind of having access to my house to my room for like a week plus. It was like 10 days. I'm like, I'm really not comfortable with you guys, having access to my room for that long. But if you really need to do it, like if you really have to do it, then I'll tell you where the key is. And she's like, yeah, like it can wait. It's just bothering me, but it wasn't important. She was having a guy over is my guess, and wanted the place to look good for him. Doesn't want it to look like the house that she normally keeps. So I gave her access to I told her where the key is and everything like that. And it blows my mind that like I can contribute to her and she can't look out for me on the, she's very selfish like that. And sorry to be ugly like that, guys, about running someone down, because it's not my policy. I've been actually very protective of her. When friends are running her down, I'm like, you don't need to do that. I go, I don't want you to run. I'm not in the relationship anymore. But I know right this second, that's exactly what's happening to me. I'm being run down. I mean, hey, I'm not doing the best either. Again, very accountable, very self-aware. So that's what's bothering me right now, is that somebody that I cared about, that I looked after, that I did a lot of nice things for, that I continue to do nice things for. When she punches a hole in the wall because she's being irrational, I fix it, It stings really bad. It's still very new information. So however long this podcast has been, know that I've been like 10 minutes sooner, just going like, yep, there's going to be no time for self-reflection. There's going to be no time for anything. She's fucking a stranger now, and he's going to be her hero, and he's done nothing. Yeah. It sucks, gang. It sucks. And that's just where I'm at emotionally right the very second of recording this podcast. And will continue to be for who knows how long. I'll let you know. I won't really go into it to be an ugly, shitty person, but I'll certainly be feeling this for a while. And it's one of those, like, my body's not even cold, but she gave me a big speech about how she's looking to work on herself and she's not interested in being with anybody, which she says every single time we break up, but it's not. It's she leaves, and before my body's even cold, there's no grieving, there's no whatever. It's just right into some other guy's bed. And this time I'm going to stay done. I was hoping to be friends with her afterwards. I was like, it's going to be hard until there's a point where she takes some accountability for kind of the shitty things that she's done, the lack of consideration for me. But it's just every conversation, it doesn't seem like she's ever going to do that. And to be honest with you, like, I don't want to be friends with somebody who can use me up, let me do and buy and whatever, care for as many things as she's asked me to do, and then to turn around and tell me that, like, I'm the bad guy. I'm not saying that buying somebody something makes you a good guy, but when you're in a bad situation, when you're in a crisis and that person's there for you all the time, and then to turn around and say that you're never there for me, to let someone do things for you and then turn around and be like, you don't support me when I need you. Like, it's so ugly, guys. Like I said, I haven't recorded the podcasts of when we broke up, but it was 2 weeks of like the ugliest shit I've seen from him. It was like true color shit. And it validated some of the stuff that I was already being educated on. And I just felt like shit. Oh, I got a phone call. One sec, gang. All right. That's the plow guy coming back. I gave him $20 and offered him some free drinks, but he's like, well, I don't have room for the drinks now. So he's like, I'll come back and get it. I was like, all right, whatever works. So yeah, Come on, Josh, let's move on. Let's move on to some other stuff. I was mentioning the founders giveaways went great. Everybody was so happy to get those. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I was saying at the tail end there, but it's just her narrative is that I was a bad guy to her, and she was nothing but good to me. And so some other guy will come in and he'll be an instant hero. The last time we broke up, she went with some guy who like never didn't want her to meet his kids, never wanted her at his place. And she came back. She's like, I recognize what a good guy you were because, you know, you wanted to have a life with me and he didn't. I'm like, this time I bought her an engagement ring, guys. Bought her an engagement ring. All I needed her to do was to pick up the phone and make a call to finalize her divorce. And every birthday and Christmas, I asked for that as my gift and I didn't get it. So, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. I'm going to move past it so that I'm not just, like I said, an ugly person just sitting here bitching to the universe. I never unloaded because I didn't want to do that. But now that I come home, I see just how little respect, you know, I'm getting just even as a fellow human being. Like I said, they didn't even plow out the front steps so that someone could walk up and deliver their food or they have guests over all the time. Like they didn't even take care of their guests. So I was just like, you know, it's not that I'm just like anybody else, just fuck them. You know what I mean? Literally and figuratively, it seems. So, I don't feel good about me. But this podcast is about where I'm at right now, what's going on with me. So I think that this is the best lens that I can give you, the most authentic version of where I am right now. It also sucked because I was at Toronto where the people were like, we love seeing you. Thank you so much. Like they were having their own kind of turmoil thing going on. There was some issues going on. They'd have a staff meeting to fix some things, but they were just like, we love you. You know, we don't always feel appreciated at work, but we feel appreciated by the comics. And you're one of the people that comes and makes us feel, you know, better and appreciates us for what we do. And I'm like, that's great. The comics I was with were happy to see me and they were very supportive, just in general, just supportive of each other, just people helping people. And then to come back to the people who are the ones who are supposed to care about me and love me and want to stay friends with me and things like that. It was just like, you know, we thought about doing it, but you know, I was worried you'd be mad. I'm like, you were worried I'd be mad that you did me a favor. No, I think you just didn't want to do it. You didn't care. And you told me the very last minute so that you could be like, oh no, I told you, I gave you a heads up. It's like when I couldn't do anything about it. So anyways, guys, contact@onemanpodcast.com. I need it now more than ever. I need some voices to reach out from the darkness and just tell me, you don't have to side with me. You can tell me like, well, you know what? I don't think they did anything wrong. Cool. You know, like tell me if I'm being unfair. I'm open to other perspectives. I'm hurt. And I did all of this stuff before I even knew the other guy. The other guy I knew existed when I had shoveled myself out, taken care of them, given her access to all my stuff so she could do it. Like I said, probably clean the house for him to come over. And I think I'm just like, that's just the thought that keeps popping up in my head is that she took over the conversation when I was trying to express how it made me feel, took over the conversation, screamed at me, and then left to go feel better by fucking this stranger. Ugh. That's where I'm at. But hopefully to pull myself out of that funk, I was at the condo eating keto, doing my OptiFast stuff. I was still being a good bitch. Some days I would actually only have 2 shakes because I'd have one when I got up and did my metrics. And then I'd be working on stuff all day long. And then it would be like, oh shit, I got to get ready for the show. And I haven't had anything else in my stomach. So I'll have a second OptiFast and I'll have water and coffee at the club. So I'd be well under the calories deficit. But as I mentioned, there's no scale there. I was excited to come home. And I decided like, I got in, and after being exhausted, I was like, I need to pick me up. I'm angry that they didn't do this. I still wasn't like, oh, I know for sure. And I kind of didn't really want to know, right? There's always that don't ask a question you don't want to know the answer to feel about, you know, promiscuity, let's say. And I just came in. I decided, you know what? You've gone 2 weeks without knowing what you've lost. You can wait until the morning. You've had some waters, you've had some coffee, you know, the weight in you, the end of the day weight is supposed to be different than the weight in the morning. So I'm like, you can wait a little while longer. And I was proud of myself, even though it's just like, don't get on the scale till morning. I was proud of myself to show a little more restraint, even in a low place. That's what eating is to a lot of fatties like myself. Is eating was you feel shitty about something or you feel bad about something. You go to the food because it's a quick dopamine hit and you feel better. And then the dopamine wears off. You realize, you know, the consequences of your actions, well, now you're in a worse place, especially if you're feeling bad about being overweight or unloved or not feeling valuable. You know, you come out on the other side of that dopamine hit, and now you feel even worse because you just added to the problem. The good feeling is gone, but the calories are not. So I was like, I feel shitty. I feel angry. I feel unloved. I feel unvalued. I feel disrespected. I want that good feeling of getting on the scale and seeing that the weight has gone down, but I disciplined myself and I waited till the morning. And I am happy to say that I got on the scale this morning, guys. I left for Toronto on January 2nd. It is January 16th. So a mere 14 days later from fasting and all this stuff, even the little cheats that I had by going to the keg and ordering, I did have chicken Caesar salad twice at the club. I believe both times were Sunday. I asked for no croutons and like light dressing, because chicken is keto, romaine is keto, the parm is keto, and the bacon on the salad is keto. And even the Caesar is keto, like in moderation. So I was like, okay, just a little bit. Boom, had that. With those slight cheats, plus I had like chicken salad some days from Costco with some Frank's Red Hot in it. I had some celery with almond butter. I had cottage cheese with a little bit of Frank's in it, just making sure everything I was eating was keto. I logged everything on MyFitnessPal. Like I was really dedicated to what I was doing. I got on the scale this morning, guys, and after 14 days, I weigh 264 pounds, a net loss of 16 pounds in 14 days, 15 if you count the second, because I was doing it that day. So 15 days, I lost 16 pounds. I feel good about it. Nobody here said anything about me looking different. Who cares? It was like, okay. Other people were like, holy shit, even just a week, even the staff who was there like early the first week and then late the second were like, you look a little trimmer. I'm like, yeah, 15 pounds is not nothing, you know? So I'm proud of myself. It is definitely the incentive to keep going. I'm going to continue with the OptiFast. So far today, I had 5 eggs, which is 250 calories. I put a little bit of Parmesan cheese in them, like fresh shredded Parm, not the shaky shit that you buy from Kraft, but like real grated Parm. I put some of that in it. I put a little bit of Frank's Red Hot, basil, salt, and pepper, and it's quite good. I've had no OptiFast shakes yet today. I'm working on my second cup of coffee, and it's like 8:30 p.m. now, so it's a little too late to be doing that, but fuck it. You know what I mean? I made the coffee before I knew I was going to have a horrific piece of information dropped on me. And again, I just stop and think about it again. Again, if these gaps are in there, that's what hits my mind. It's crazy, guys. It's crazy. You know, it's my birthday this week. That's going to be clanging around in my head. I actually work on my birthday, but it's just shitty. And again, the narrative is that I'm a bad guy. And I think a lot of my close personal friends know how much I gave to this relationship. But I'm not dead. As much as I still have a horrific landmine of like, where am I going to live in 4 months? It was hard enough to get a house with 2 incomes because everything's so expensive. And it's all just more expensive than it was then. But I'm not feeling good about it. I feel good about my weight loss. I'm going to continue. And I also want to say too, look at this. We're at 55 minutes and I haven't even got to the little segments. So again, another episode I thought would be short that isn't. If you are a heavyset person and you believe the key to your happiness or ability to be in a relationship is based on your weight, you can be disciplined and work hard, and you are going to be disappointed with the reality. Now listen, your body is a physical credit score. All right. If someone looks at you and you're big and obese like me, that's somebody who can go, this person habitually for the last while has not taken care of themselves. Now, don't get me wrong. You could be 240 pounds or 260 pounds and you were 320 before. So your score is getting better. But again, it's a long-term thing, right? You could pay all your bills on time now. Your score is still going to be shitty. You know what I mean? But the idea is that it takes time and effort to work that off. And I look better than a 320-pound guy, which is where I started 2 years ago before the first time I did OptiFast. But I'm almost 60 pounds lighter, which is crazy. That's a shitload of weight. That's like 3 sweatshop kids. Sorry. But I'm going to keep working on it. But at the end of the day, my credit score is not good. It's still bad, but it's not horrific. But I guess what I'm trying to say to you is you can't just lose weight and all your problems are gone. If you are someone who doesn't value yourself, like there's a reason that you ate in the first place. Do you know what I'm saying? And there's reasons that you continue to eat theoretically, right? Oh, you're sad. Let's get ice cream and cry on the couch together. Well, it's like you're getting the dopamine hit, so you feel kind of better. You have the camaraderie, so you feel better. But that dopamine, like you're not doing yourself any favors. I don't think fat people should feel like they have no value. I was writing a bit in the shower and I haven't even written the notes down yet. So I'm going to have to like relive it. I'm not going to try to do it now because that would be disingenuous, but I do want to remember the little points that I had on it. It's like, if you're heavy, I'm not saying that you're not beautiful, but I think, for lack of a better term, you're not necessarily attractive. And that's not to say that you should hate yourself, but it's like your body tells people something about you. And if you're really overweight, it's because you don't care for yourself. You don't have self-love. You know what I mean? And if you're the kind of person who doesn't love yourself, other people are going to be able to pick up on that. And in all fairness, I've seen a lot of people bitter because, oh, why do fucking hot chicks only want the assholes? Or how come guys only want to fool around on you and stuff like that? It's like, you have to know that we all attract a certain type of person, and the type of person you're going to attract if you're not taking care of yourself is somebody who's interested in just using you. Theoretically, there are people who are good and like, that's what I'm into. And God bless those people. But I mean, if you're the kind of person who only goes after assholes and you just keep getting assholes, you're like, oh my God. Well, you're like, well, that's because every time a nice guy comes along, you don't pay attention to him. Or a nice girl comes along. You get a nice sweetheart who's going to be there for you through thick and thin, and you throw her away for the next conquest because you're empty inside. If you're the kind of guy who's angry all the time because the world isn't just doing everything it can for you, right? How come no chicks are interested in me? Fucking sluts, bitches. It's like, well, you're not a very happy, pleasant person. You're angry all the time. What person, what good sweetheart is going to be like, wow, that guy's mad all the time. I can't wait to hitch my wagon to that. The very long-winded point that I'm making, gang, is that I'm not going to just lose weight. I need to continue to work on myself. I need to get myself to a point where I'm happy being alone. I need to be okay being stuck with myself and stuck with my thoughts and stuck with my problems and stuck with my fears. I need to work on them. I can't go and find solace with a new person, which is what I knew when I was on the dating apps and things like that. I knew that a person wasn't going to make me happy, and I knew that I was looking for temporary fulfillment when I was on them, and that's why I haven't pursued anything. I am not whole, and I don't think anyone ever really is, but I'm not even like I think I'm a D student at being whole. And that comes from not taking care of myself. It comes from, making impulse purchases to get a dopamine hit and to distract myself. It comes from a lot of different things. It comes from, eating when I feel shitty. It comes from playing video games instead of working on my craft. The thing is, I need to be financially stable, which in comedy isn't really even a thing. You can maybe get there, but I need to be debt free so that when I do have a good month, I can bank it. And then if I have a bad month, I've got something to fall back on. I have no savings and I have a lot of debt, and I have a lot of debt. One of the reasons is because I was in a relationship and I did free, kind things that cost me nothing in search of value. I did big, grandiose acts to try to prove that I was valuable and things like that. I'm on the fence about sharing a story with you guys. So like I said, I need voices to reach out from the dark. Contact at onemanpodcast.com. Maybe I'll tell you the story. It is true. I swear to you guys, I've not lied to you on this podcast. I have sometimes withheld what is going on because out of ethics, right? And trying I'll tell you anything you want to know about me, but I don't think it's fair to include people who who didn't say they can. And that's why I am honestly ashamed of myself for sharing as much as I did, but I have been run down by this person publicly to many different people. And then when I hear what was said, like the fact that it's like, we're not even saying like it's exaggerated. Like we're talking about blatantly untrue. I don't believe that turnabout is fair play, despite the saying. Turnabout or turnaround or whatever it is. I don't think that that's fair play. I don't believe in an eye for an eye. I think that's unethical. I do believe that two wrongs don't make a right. I think that you do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, which, a little side note, the do unto others. I had a friend say one time, it's like, oh, you shouldn't do that. You should treat people, not treat people the way you want to be treated. You should treat people the way they want to be treated. And I was like, but that's what that saying means. Cause he was like, the example he is like, if you love steak and you go over to someone's house and you're like, you want them to give you steak, like, but if a vegan comes to your house, you don't give them a steak saying that's what I would want. You make them the food that they would want. And I said, well, dude, you're really you're going too deep into it. The statement is true because if you want your dietary necessities to be dietary requirements to be respected, then you want to respect other people's dietary requirements. It's not saying you give someone a steak if you want a steak. You're really decompressing and deconstructing it too much. You're right in what you're saying. Like they do unto others is like, I would want steak. Like, I would want someone to feed me what I want to be fed. So I'm going to feed them what they want to be fed. I was really surprised. This person's very, very intelligent, but I think this is somebody who has also been accused of being a bleeding heart, which he's a good guy. But he's one of those liberals that will take it too far, where it's almost like you're looking for fault in a sentiment that is very pure and good of heart, which is, if you want to be respected, you show other people. That's what that statement means. If you want to be respected, you should be respected. If you want people to be honest with you, you're honest with them. If you want them to be kind and courteous, then you're kind and courteous. That's what that statement means. You treat people the way you want to be treated, not like, oh, well, I'm allergic to this, so I'm never going to, like, yes, when you say treat people the way they want to be treated, yes, in hopes that same precedent that you set will exist in reverse. It looks like I have a lot to say, guys. I'm over an hour and I still haven't hit the segments. So my point is that I've always been honest with you guys. I don't believe an eye for an eye. I think you treat people the way they want to be treated, but I would say that I am ashamed of sort of airing this dirty laundry, but I'm shouting out of the darkness, just feeling absolutely shitty. And then the fact that the narrative is that I'm the shit guy and this person is already off with someone else. It's just, the old way I used to sum it up was like, I'm like, my body's not even cold and you're already in bed with somebody else. Like for how much I brought to the table in our relationship, and like I said, I'm not well financially. I've contributed so much money to this relationship, and to know that it's not appreciated or whatever. The thing is always about, well, I never asked you to do that. It's like, yeah, but you never said no either. You accepted everything that you were given. So despite the fact that you didn't ask for it, very heavily hinted at all the things that you wanted. And now, and every time she made a mistake, I was there to bail it out financially, because I didn't value myself. And I thought, well, maybe if I do this, then I'll be appreciated and wanted. Maybe then she'll call and get the divorce finalized. Maybe then I can present the the engagement ring that I sold my whiskey collection to be able to afford, something that I spent a lot of time gathering. But it was like, I can give away anything to show that you're more important. My commitment to you is more important to me than any material thing I have. And I couldn't even get a phone call in return for years. I suppose my act was genuine and I did want to marry her, but I think buying the ring was even more me showing like, look, I'm committed to this. I want to know that you're committed too. Can you please look, I've gone through everything I can do to be prepared to take this next step with you. It's just, I'm really heartbroken. It's funny because I didn't want to get back together, but I wanted to know that like I can end the relationship. I can be over with it, but it would have been nice to know that it wasn't for nothing. I've grown the most in my life from being in this relationship, but it would be nice to know that somebody I invested so much time and effort into valued me enough to take the breakup seriously and use it as an opportunity for growth. And instead, it's just an opportunity to blame me for everything went wrong and then just go on to someone else. Yeah, I will try to avoid talking about Crystal in the future, but I live with her, so things might come up. I will try not to be ugly about it, guys. But 264 pounds, down 16 pounds in 15 days. The point I was trying to make was just like, if you are an unhappy person, you're not going to go from being a fat, unhappy person to a skinny, happy person. You can, but it's not just losing weight. It comes from looking at, why was I eating? What was I running from when I was eating? What was I trying to feel better about when I was eating? What thing in me makes me feel devalued? Do I have abandonment issues? Do I have problems with my family? Do I have problems with work? Do I have problems with resentment and not setting boundaries with people? Am I a people pleaser? What is it that makes me upset? And like I said, I feel like I'm a D student right now. If I lost the weight, I would just be a skinny person with flabby excess skin and blame that for my lack of happiness. If you blame the veneer, the avatar that you live in for why you're not happy, you're never gonna be happy. And I think even people who aren't fat, who want to inject poison into their lips and their foreheads and their ass and all sorts of other things. Bear with me. I'm getting a call again. So if you're going to do all of that shit, you're going to have that's another sign that you're not happy with yourself. Bear with me. One sec. Anyways, I'm giving the plow guy some free booze and some cash to do her side. You know what I mean? And I never even told her that I paid. It's just one of those that gets done for her. But like I said, didn't get a thank you. Sorry, reminder of when he's calling. So he's been calling me several times. He's like, I'm going to come back with my car. Okay, cool. And then I call him. All right, I just changed my car. I'm going to come. I'm like, it's cool, man. Like, just fucking tell me when you get here. So my saying is that if you've got fake tits and a fake ass and you get your eyebrows micro needle, like if you could spend a ton of money nitpicking yourself. And again, you've seen what too much plastic surgery looks like, right? Nobody comes on the end. They're like, oh my God, now you're a perfect person. Symmetry doesn't exist in nature. People see it, and they even if they don't know exactly what they think is weird about you, they're going to see it and they're going to, oh, that's not natural. Like something's fucked up about the way you look. Perfect is the enemy of good. So don't look for, and do you really want somebody who just wants to be with you because of the way you look? Looks fade. You want somebody who's a good person because they know kindness, empathy, accountability, a partner who knows when to be there for you and knows when to let you blaze your own trail. Somebody who's there to support, but not take control. What am I doing? What am I doing? I tell dick jokes. I'm in debt like you wouldn't believe. It's not my place to say that. I guess I'm just trying to say, guys, I'm going to keep working on the weight loss, but that isn't all of it. I got to work on the other shit too. So I would like to, in the happiness scale, I'd like to be at least an A student where I'm not perfect, right? I appreciate that about the scholastic system is that they don't feel like anybody completes 100% just because, there's nobody who knows 100% about any subject. So the highest you can ever get is like 99% on testing and stuff. Because the idea is that you just keep the perspective open that you don't know everything in this subject. You're just really good at it. And so nobody ever achieves sustainable happiness, but you work at it every day. You are kind to other people. You value yourself. You value what you put in your body. You value the exercise, and you learn over time that your physical credit score will get better. But I look at somebody who's got, skinny, fake tits, a big fake ass, the lips that look all fucked up, the Botox. I look at somebody like that and I see them as equally unhappy because it's not like, oh, all you need to do is be that way. You might get attention, but the attention that you get is like, it's fake. It's sycophantic. It's somebody who wants to fuck you and then move on to the next. They don't look at you and go, I wonder what your hopes and dreams are. All right, dude's, oh no, it's her. I was going to say, oh, dude's here to get his stuff. He's not, it's her. Oh, I can't wait to not talk to her. Let me get this over with, gang. Let me get this over with and I'll be back. Love yourself is what I'm saying before I hit pause. Oh, guess who's fired back up? Yeah. So just in the door, more screaming or more, it's all my fault. I was like, are we going to finish our discussion? What do you mean? No, I'm not finishing discussion. No. Blah, 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 scream. So you guys are great. Thanks for listening. Like I said, just love yourself, grow. Don't let somebody else tell you who you are. That's a big one. Oh. I'm so glad I got pretty close at the end. All right. Let me just say, I'll tell you guys. Here, you know what I did? I came home last night, and after shoveling for 3 hours, I came inside, and I'm like, I'm just going to go to sleep. Sorry, I thought of a joke that's inappropriate. I came inside, I was like, I'm going to watch I'm just going to, like, I'm too tired. My luggage is all over my room, and it still is now, but it's all over the room, and I'm like, I'm just going to leave it there and watch a movie, go to bed, wake up, weigh myself, feel better, and move on with my life. And so I watched Creed. I don't know why the Rocky movies are usually pretty inspirational. And I had no knowledge of any of this at the time. I just knew that I did the whole fucking front by myself and nobody cared. I watched Creed, and Creed is just, I'm just like the Rocky movies, all of them now are very formulaic. So it's like, you know, no one believes in me and I'm trying to make my own name and I got to go get Rocky to train me and blah, blah, blah. And it was fine. I didn't think it was great. It was fine. And then it's like, well, what are you going to do for the next one? Well, we're going to make Ivan Drago the Ivan Drago's kid is going to fight Apollo Creed's kid. And I got like halfway through it and then I finally passed out. I think I actually passed out early the first time I was watching Creed, and then I woke up. So it was like 6:30. I was in bed like, I'm going to fucking fall asleep. And so I woke up later, finished it. And then I fell asleep, and then I decided to move on to the second one because I still felt relatively wide awake. But then I passed out. I passed out the second time and I never finished Creed 2, but it was it was very much, it was essentially is what we should be using instead of literally. It was essentially the same movie again, where it's like, oh, you know, don't you believe in me, Rock? Don't you think I can do it? Okay, you know, you got a lot of heart, but everybody was burden hate. And so I fell asleep, and I'll finish at some point. But I really, like, if you like Rocky movies, it's still that whole, you know, some guy with some sort of underdog story and, you know, let's see where it goes. Let's see, you know, can he rise to the occasion? Blah, 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 blah. So I passed out. That was it. That was my week. And then I woke up today, got on the scale, had a happy morning, had a good start to the day, and then, you know, chatted with Brooke for a long time, and then tried to clear the air and instead was slapped around verbally, and then found out something even worse. And now I'm back to feeling shitty. But I will tell you guys this, I'm not going to hit the food crack pipe. I'm not going to seek my dopamine from the end of a fork or whatever. I'm going to just be like, well, that is what it is. And what someone else does not affect me. I'm devastated that somebody I held up so high, whatever, it's not my place. And that's part of moving on and learning to love myself, is that because this person has moved into a stranger's bed so quickly does not say anything about my personal value. And I know this because for 2 weeks while I was in Toronto, friends, colleagues, you know, everybody was so kind. Strangers, people who might be listening to this very podcast, who at this point, if they're still here, might even be like, fuck, the guy seemed like so, you know, nice, and now he's just being kind of shitty. And I am ashamed of that, truthfully. But I hope it gives you a lens into, like, I really hope you get to listen to some of the other podcasts, because I've had some happy ones. You know, I have lived, you know, quite a few years on this podcast, and yeah, I really hope that this is not all I am to you. But I have to learn that I don't control what other people think of me. If somebody wants to assume that I was just a bad guy, I can't control that. If somebody wants to think that I'm some sort of piece of shit, I can't control that. I have to believe myself that I'm not. And that's what I got to work on the most. I have to know that I'm worth the person that I may pursue. And it took me a long time in my life. I'm like giving up a bunch of sayings in this one, because I'm like, there's a quote of the week section now, but I have to believe that I'm worth it. And right now I kind of know it, but I don't really believe it. You know, and there's people that say that, you know, I'll believe it when I see it. And then there's others that say to see it, I have to believe it. Right. Because the way we view the world, who do I think I am? Some feel good guy? I've had people say, I had a friend of mine come out to a show, and I didn't get to tell you guys that. And that's something I didn't write in my notes. I'm very, very grateful for my friend coming out. Now, I would name him, except I'm going to share a little something that he told me. So I don't want to kind of put him on the spot, but I just want to say I had a friend come out and see me who also thank you for coming. I'm sorry. It was Tuesday of last week, which is usually falls under previous podcast fodder. However, I recorded it that afternoon, and therefore when I saw you Tuesday night, it didn't really fall in. So I was just like, hey, Wednesday to, whatever we are now, Tuesday, what happened? And this was a friend of mine who was saying that he was going through a hard breakup, and he listen to my podcast, and he's like, well, fucking Josh is going through it too. And if Josh can make it through, I can make it through. It was a compliment. And I'm happy to know that you guys, that I'm able to do that. I'm able to make you guys feel better. I'm able to, people are like, dude, you say it all on there. And I'm like, yeah, it's scary. Sometimes it really is just to say everything. And then, just hope that the right people are hearing it. And I mean that, like, this episode, I could have people who don't like me hearing it and theoretically or blatantly use it against me, make me feel like I'm shit. And I don't want that. I don't, but the good and the honesty and the sincerity of who I am that I put into this podcast every week, to me, is worth more. I don't want to operate from a place of fear. When you do that, you don't make the best decisions. I'd rather, with the lens of love, and in this case, it's loving myself. I just think I'm going to keep doing what I do and hope that the right people hear it. And the fact that at times it seems to make a difference for you guys makes it worthwhile. And I'm always here. Contact at onemanpodcast.com. Send me an email. Let me know what's going on with you. Let me know what you thought of all this, or just tell me a fucking movie watch, whatever it is, just reach out and touch me consensually with whatever's going on with you. But I'm lucky. I'm really lucky. Some people get into this position and they don't have a ton of friends, and they don't have a ton of colleagues. They don't have the trust in humanity to share their honest thoughts and feelings and their vulnerabilities. And I appreciate each and every one of you that has ever done that with me, that has given me the space to do that, and at the same time has taken the leap of faith to share with me something that's vulnerable to you. I promise not to betray that. And I hope that that's a trend that increases, where people can be more honest and vulnerable and things like that. And no, despite the fact that I'm funny and I can be very venomous and sharp on stage and stuff like that, I'm a person too. You know what I mean? And we all just want to be loved, which is theoretically, unless you're a psychopath or something, but we just all want to find somebody that we can rely on and love or whatever. And, I'm really hoping that that's something that we can all get in this world. Hey, let's go on to the fucking quotes of the week here. The quote of the week is something that just in the last week, was something I've been working very, very hard on. So I'm doing stand-up comedy at night, working a few hours at that. And then, of course, working podcast stuff all day, every day, and making calls about theaters and things like that. So a quote that I heard from Lori Grenier, who is on Shark Tank, the US version, Shark Tank. And this is not her quote. In fact, I believe in the episode, when you watch her say this, she even says, this is not a quote of mine. It's a quote I love. And if she doesn't say it's a quote, she's like, it's a quote I love. And if it is her quote, because everything online is wrong. You look and they're like, oh, Lori Grenier. But it's not, I don't think it's her quote. I think she says, this is not a quote, but a quote I love, or not a quote of mine, but a quote I love is, entrepreneurs are willing to work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40. And that's a quote I love, because it's a discussion. It's a quote more about passion and desire. Whereas, like, you're willing to work more on something that you're passionate about and happy to do to avoid just working 40 hours a week for somebody else. And so entrepreneurs are willing to work for 80 hours a week to avoid working 40. And I'm the same. Like, if I'm doing podcast stuff and I'm making calls and I'm booking shows and I'm doing Photoshop, I will work all day, every day for something that I'm passionate about. But when I'm doing like the brand ambassador stuff, like, I like that I get to do different stuff. It's a job I dislike less. And sometimes I outright love it, but it's something that's just it's not something I want to do all the time. It's better than working a real job still, but it's just as unpredictable and whatnot. So I absolutely love that quote. So if you're somebody who's, working on a passion project and whatever, just, you can remind yourself that entrepreneurs, are willing to work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40. And that's a quote that I love. I do not believe it's Lori Greiner. She's the one I heard it from. You'll find that a lot of my quotes are people like I heard it from, but those people are very quick to be like, this isn't mine, but it's something I live by. So I value you guys for listening. I really do appreciate it. I was going to do the word of the week, and this is a tough one because it's more of a reading exercise, but I want to put it out here because it's one that I know I have probably misused, and it's one that is commonly misused. So I'm going to pull it up right here. It's whom, the word whom. So let me just go ahead and type this in here. Whom and when to use it. Commonly repeated advice for remembering whether to use who or whom is this. I'm going to click on it. Whom or whom from Touro University. It's the first one that comes up. Who or whom. In a sentence, who is used as a subject. Here are two examples. Who would you like to be on your team? Who made these beautiful hats? When you use whom, objective form, whom is used as the object of a verb or preposition. Wish I could say I knew what those meant. Consider these examples. To whom was the letter addressed? So that's, I guess, the subject. Doesn't that feel, what do they say? Subject. Who, when to use who, subjective form. But I'm like, whom is, to whom was the letter addressed? Wouldn't that be like the subject? Or I guess the subject of the sentence is a letter. Anyways, it says whom is, to whom was the letter addressed? Whom do you believe? But can't you say who do you believe? I know not with whom I will go to the concert. Below are two tricks for how to figure out whether who or whom is correct. Trick number 1, the commonly repeated advice for remembering whether to use who or whom is this. If you can replace the word with he or she or another subject pronoun, use who. If you can replace it with him or her, he or she, him or her, or another object pronoun, use whom. So, I see. One way to remember the trick is that both him and whom end with the letter M. All right. His, so he or she, what about his? I'm going to whom's house? No. So the word with he or she, another subject pronoun, use who. So I'd like to give it to he, I'd like to give it to who, but who sounds like a question. I'd like to give it to who. It sounds like you're not, I'd like to give it to him or him. Well, I don't know. Fuck. One way to remember this trick is, okay, whatever. That's one we've got out here. Trick number 2. Let's see. Actually, they say, for example, so who/whom do you love? Do you love him? That's like asking a question of the question. Do you love him? You would not, do you love him? You would not say, do you love he? So whom is correct. It's almost like if you ask a question afterwards, that's how. Because then it says, whom writes the song? He writes the song. But what about if the song was written by him, right? So whom writes the song? He writes the song. There, that's more direct. You would not say him writes the song. Therefore, who is correct? So him, right, is whom. Okay, trick number 2. If the first trick does not work for you, try this one. Find all the verbs in the sentence. Find the subject that corresponds to each verb. So if whom is a subject, the one doing the action, use who. If whom is an object, the one receiving the action. But then the one about the letter, hold on, let's go back to the letter one. To who was the letter addressed? I guess whom is the verb addressed? I guess so. I like the he, him one. The subject are who and, where's trick number 2? If you find the first trick, find all the verbs in the sentence, find the subject that corresponds to each verb. So if whom, whatever. Let us use this example. Who made those beautiful hats and to whom will she give them? The verbs are made and give. Okay. The subjects are who and she. Because who is the subject of the first clause doing the action, who is correct. Because she is the subject of the second clause, whom is correct because it is receiving the hats. Whom made the beautiful hats and to whom will she give them? Sorry, guys. This is what I was dreading because I'm like, if I'm doing this podcast in a hurry, this is a spot that's going to take up some time. Holy fucking hour and a half. Another way to see how who and whom are used. You know what? Let's go ahead and just say the he, him thing works. Her, she. What was the she part? Give me the first trick again. He or she, her, she, her. So he, him, she, her. That's the thing. So that's how you use whom, guys. Now I can't say that I do a lot of writing. It's more like when I say it. So, and I know a lot of times people say just who in general, and who do I give this to? Not to whom do I give it to? Because you can say that too. Hey, there you go. Hopefully I made it less confusing, and I know I'm still walking away without a complete, understanding, but complete. Because probably because I don't know what fucking prepositions and shit like that are. even though I kind of do. All right, top 5 list for the week, gang. Top 5 list. I decided to go with, because I'd been eating keto foods while I was away, my list this week is the top 5 keto foods I've eaten while away. And I was talking earlier about some of the stuff that I had, so I'm just going to go ahead and say number 5 was a snack I bought from Costco called Wisps. It's little Parmesan crisps, and they've just been dried out, so it's just like a crunchy parm treat. It's keto. I had those from time to time, and I'd have a little of them. I didn't have a food scale, so I didn't weigh them out to make sure that was underneath, but I'm like, oh, if it's like this many grams, I'm like, well, I know 2 or 3 is well below those grammages. So I would stick to that. It wasn't even every day. It was once every few days, I would have like 1 or 2 of them just to have a different taste in my mouth. So the parm crisps were in at number 5. Number 4 was the chicken Caesar salads that I got at Absolute Comedy. I got them with no croutons, light dressing, and everything else was keto. The first time I had them, the chicken was dry, but it wasn't horrific. And they had seasoned it with like hot sauce. So like, I guess the chicken breasts they used were pre-tossed in hot sauce, but not like wet. It was tossed and then baked in. But they were kind of dry, so I remember just like eating it. The leaf lettuce, if I didn't bring it up last time, I didn't have like any seasoning on it. I was like to the point where I was literally like, I don't think they actually put any dressing on it. They may have just served me without dressing. So the second time I was like, all right, I said very light dressing. I go, tell them half dressing this time. But they gave me a piece of chicken that was even drier. And in fact, the bottom was burnt. So as I was eating it, it was like literally chewing through char. Wasn't great, but I'm telling you, like while I was eating the bacon, parm, and leaves with a little bit of Caesar, that was delicious. And again, it was like one of the first things I'd eaten in some time. You know what I mean? Like one of my few meals I'd had over a few days. So, I told you guys about how Ryan took me out on the last episode. So I've had meals, but number 3 was the chicken salad that I had. So I'm like, not the chicken Caesar salad, but like actually chicken salad where it's like mayo and celery and onions and this and that. That's what I had the most. I went through two Costco containers. So 8 servings in the span of 14 days, and didn't have it every day. I'd probably had it like once every second day, but that was great because I'd literally just take the scoop out, put it in a bowl, mash a little trough in the middle of it with my fork, throw some Frank's Red Hot, mix it all up, and just, sorry, brain's wandering again. Mix it up, eat that. So it was just like seasoned, that, and it was good for me. I logged everything in MyFitnessPal, made sure that it knew whatever. I really enjoyed that. That was one of my favorite things on the road. I keep saying top 5 while I was away, but in all fairness, the number 2 is what I made today was the eggs. They didn't have, I didn't get any eggs or anything like that while I was in Toronto. I decided to make some eggs today while I was chatting with Brooke. I was downstairs and I'm like, I'm hungry. And you know what? I have eggs in the fridge that are going to go bad. So I may as well have it. It's a keto meal. So I made 5 eggs. I put some Parmesan, excuse me. Now I've got the hiccups for some reason. I put some Parmesan on the eggs, salt and pepper, some dried basil, spice, shook on it, scrambled that up. Normally I would do that and I would fold it in half and I would cut it, so that I had like two portions of eggs that I could put on a sandwich, but I'm not doing carbs. And then, it's not to say that if I had bread, I would have eaten it, but just, wasn't doing that. So I'm like, I'll just scramble it all together and delicioso. That's how it goes. So I made that, and that was one of the most delicious things and it was variety. It was something different over the last few weeks. So that was delectable, but number 1 still comes in at going to the keg with Ryan. So big thank you to Ryan for taking me out. I had a nice piece of filet mignon with a nice keto, not keto, but Béarnaise sauce, which is keto, and then cauliflower mash on the side. I did cheat with the bread, and I confess to that, but I'll tell you, even if I was a good bitch and I hadn't eaten the bread, it still would have been the best thing I had while away. So that's my top 5 things I had while I was away. Guys, what were the top 5 things you had while I was away? No, send me your lists. If you got a list of the top 5, or you have an idea, something that you'd like me to do, please let me know. Contact at onemanpodcast.com. Coming up this week, my 41st birthday. I get to go into my birthday down a bunch of pounds, not that other thing. Down a bunch of pounds. I feel like, it's like The Ring. I was joking on stage that I'm like, I got like 7 days before I turned 41 because a lot of fat comics die at 40. So I'm like, it's literally like, I've got 1 week, 7 days. And then, and then I'm going to be dead. But if I make it past 40, I think I might be okay for a while. For you guys coming up this weekend, coming up Friday, I do have my bonus episode with Kyle Brownrigg mentioned. It's going to come up for you guys. It's a long one. Please enjoy. I love Kyle. And there's still so much that we didn't say. I'm now receiving a text message from her, which I'm not going to look at. My screen's locked, so I don't know what it says. Try not to distract myself with it. And then from Thursday through Sunday, I'm doing an event for HelloFresh at the EY Center in Ottawa. So no stand-up comedy for this week, for this guy this week. But plugs for you guys. Still working on that Verzi tour. I'm still working on the one in Collingwood. I'll let you know when I know more. Not like a lot of you are going to be in Collingwood. It's 2 hours away from Toronto. So if I happen to have anyone in Collingwood, Ontario that listens, I'll plug that. But working on the Verzi tour, doing the Collingwood thing, trying to work on more stand-up dates. I'm expecting a phone call that I might be on the booking some more clubs, but I will be back on Codenames Live January 22nd. So you can watch that at twitch.tv/nerdincorrected. It's not a competition right now. It's just a regular show, but I would love for you guys to be there. I think it's 7 p.m. Eastern time, but I could be wrong. Somewhere around then I'll put out a poster. So check out my socials, right? If you're not following me on Facebook or Instagram, please feel free to do that so that, you'll see the plugs for these things that I'm doing. And you can sit right on your phone and watch me play Codenames. I have not actually picked my partner yet. I did mention to you guys that I'm going to Chicago in February for Verzi's second Netflix taping, third special taping, but second Netflix taping. And I'll tell you guys more about that. Try to maybe get a little bit of a chit chat with Verz and share that with you guys on the podcast when that happens. But it's so funny. This outro song that I've selected this week was a song that I really liked when I was young, very young. And it was just this dumb song. And it's probably going to sound hacky and old. Who knows? But I like it. I still like it. I don't think it's great. There's parts of it that I think are a little cheesy, but I still like this song. And I remember for weeks I tried to record the music video, because that's how you got, I never knew it was going to play on the radio, but there was a show that was like, hey, the top 40 this week, but they didn't show every song. They would play like a song, a music video, and then they would tell you like the next 4 chart things, and then they would play the next one after that, like 5 in. So there were so many times I tried to get this. And actually when I was little, this is in the mid 90s, Crystal was actually one who said, oh, I have the CD, or I have it on tape and I'll just make you a copy. And she did. And I was very, very grateful for that. But it's from Paula Abdul. And I remember this was like, I'd heard of her, but I was kind of like, sorry, more texts, but from different people. Yeah, sorry. For some reason, the next message that I got has opened my phone for me, and I don't like that because now I saw some of the message. There's an outro song coming up your guys' way. Guys, contact at onemanpodcast.com. Love you very much. It's going to be rough. But I'm going to have breakfast with my friends. Holy fuck, tomorrow morning, I need to be at a breakfast. That was why that text message just came in. So I'm going to eat keto. I'm going to be good. I'm going to get eggs and bacon, and that's it. Have a nice, coffee, and that'll be my, I guess, cheat or whatever, but I'll just keep it simple. I'll log all the meals, and I'm going to be a good bitch. Guys, thank you for listening. Really, truly, thank you for listening this time. If you made it all the way through, I appreciate you. I love you. I'm working on loving myself, and I will chat with you again soon.